Welcome back to Serena Nicole. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I help aspiring domestic divas push through their negative self-talk and limiting beliefs to help them create lives and homes that are peaceful, elegant, and overflowing with what you hold dear. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, especially a female entrepreneur, and especially a female entrepreneur over 40, I have something very controversial to say, but I have to say it. Hustle culture is destroying your business, and it's destroying you. What if I told you that slowing down may actually help you to skyrocket your success? Let me explain. You see, I've coached clients for over 20 years, both as an intuitive life coach and a business coach. I've hosted a national radio show, and I also founded an award-winning food blog. I've been featured in local, regional, and global outlets, including the New York Times and Travel Channel. So I'm not a stranger to wearing multiple hats. Along the way, I saw myself progress from excited and eager and ambitious to stressed out, burnt out, and ill. And I've pulled myself back from the brink. So I'm here to share with you what I've learned and how I did it, so that hopefully you can sidestep some of those obstacles, and if you're currently making some of the same mistakes I made, you can turn it around before hopefully you get as far as I did. I've walked the path from burnout to balance, and I'm going to show you how you can do it too. In today's video, you'll learn how to break the toxic cycle of hustle culture and embrace a slower, more intentional way of living. Practical steps to balance your work, life, and yes, your hustle without sacrificing your well-being. A 90-day transformation plan that will help you to regain control over your life and your business. And be sure to stick around until the end, because I have a very special opportunity to share with you, an opportunity for one-on-one coaching where I will personally help to guide you through your very own 90-day transformation. You don't want to miss it, so stick around. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Step 1, you want to break free from hustle culture. Why is this? Hustle culture convinces us that we must always be working, striving, and achieving to be considered anywhere close to a success. We must always be working. We must always be achieving. And this mentality is toxic. It leads to burnout, strained relationships, and even ill health. Trust me, I know. By slowing down, I realized that true success is about being in alignment with my core values. You see, I believed for many years that if I just worked harder, stayed up a little later, pushed through the pain, it would bring me closer to my goals and to that elusive success that I was always striving for. And it did. It worked. But it came at a great cost. Burnout, both emotionally, mentally, and physically. Now, after shifting my benchmarks of how I personally define success for me, I find I'm achieving just as much, sometimes even more, and this time without those side effects. Shifting my approach was key, as was redefining what success means to me. I took my mindset from one where I defined success on an external validation basis and transformed it into one where I defined success as how aligned I stayed to my core values and beliefs. One way that I was able to do this was through something as simple as my daily to-do list. Going through it and looking to see how many items on that list were actually priorities. Not just busy work, but actual priorities, and how many of those priorities were aligned with my core values. Now, of course, this is the real world. We have to sometimes do things that we don't want to do, that we don't like to do. But the more that we can shift that ratio and balance towards being in alignment and staying in alignment, the happier, healthier, and more motivated we will be on a regular basis. Conversely, when we do things that are out of alignment with who we are and who our inner being is calling us to be, the quicker we are likely to fall ill, to become burnt out, to become very unhappy with the position that we find ourselves in, no matter how outwardly the world looks at us and how financially and materially and socially those rewards come in. I know that really resonates with some of you. Let me know in the comments down below. Making this shift won't be easy at first. It's going to feel very foreign. It's going to feel very strange. It requires slowing down and really understanding who you are on the inside and what matters to you. Sometimes that's a conversation that we've either never had with ourselves or we haven't had in many years, and we're still following a playbook that no longer rings true to where we are at this point in our lives. However, I can't emphasize enough how important it is that you take that first step, because it has been key for me to restore my work-life balance, and I know that it can do the same for you. Now, how long will it take for you to see changes? I'm sure that's something you're wondering at this point. For me, it took about 6 weeks for me to start to see improvements in my mental health and my physical health. But the true transformation took about 90 days. That's when I really felt a significant shift, and I could see that many of the autoimmune flare-ups, for example, that I was having were diminishing quite significantly, both in frequency and intensity. This confirmed to me that I was on the right track. Step 2, say no. I should have my cuff on the outside. Let's try again. Step 2. Say no. See, one of my great weaknesses was overcommitment. Not so much to personal requests. I'm actually pretty good at brushing those off, but professional ones. You see, FOMO, for me at least, was real. I was always worried about missing out on an opportunity for a chance encounter, for networking, for getting my foot in the door, for keeping my seat at the table. And this often meant overextending myself, even when my mental and my physical self were telling me to slow down, to rest, to stay in. I felt that the stakes were too high. If these opportunities were landing in my lap, didn't it mean I had to take them? Didn't it mean that they would pan out, that it would lead to something bigger and greater? And you know what? Many times it did. But also, many times, some of my biggest opportunities came through chance encounters, or just landed in my inbox. Event by event, moment by moment, commitment by commitment, I can't say that the return was as high as I may have thought or may have tried to convince myself that it was. And unfortunately, juggling so many tasks, so many priorities, so many commitments, so many social events, eventually I started to drop the ball, and it became harder to manage everything. I tried to overcome this at first by bringing on assistants, forming a team. That's always the next big stage in the girl hustle life. And you know what? It helped. It helped a lot, and it achieved a lot. But it didn't address the core issue, which was, once again, a lack of personal and professional boundaries, a lack of being able to say no. And that was something I really had to learn, and time forced me to do that. Health forced me to do that. And one of the things that really helped me to make that shift was realizing that every time I say yes to something that I'm on the fence about, I'm saying no to a greater commitment to myself. Saying yes to something that doesn't feel right is saying no to something that does. And that made it a lot easier for me to start enforcing those boundaries and to pull back. And it's not easy. You're gonna feel twinges of guilt, you're gonna feel twinges of regret at times. And you're going to have to be more creative, because you're now carving out a path that's unique for you, rather than following the path that has been laid by others that's more conventional. And the rewards may not be as quick. I'm not telling you that they're going to be as quick, but the rewards will still come, and they're going to be just as great as the ones that you would have gotten the other way, but without the cost. I think it's probably the right time now to let you all know how I came to some of these insights and realizations. Like many of you, during the lockdowns in 2020, I was forced to really sit and look at what my life had become, the reality of my life. And I didn't really like what I saw. I saw the toll that the girl hustle ethos had taken on me, and I wanted to turn things around. You see, years of just pushing through the pain, pushing through the stress, pushing through the deadlines, combined with being a full-time caregiver, first to my father and then to my mother, combined with my own autoimmune health issues and high-functioning autism, it just became a cluster beep. And I started to get more and more flare-ups, almost to the point of incapacitation. And at one of the worst points, I even had a seizure. Yeah, it was pretty bad. And if you know anything about angioedema, scary, very scary. So I knew that I really had to do something, and I had to do something fast. As an intuitive coach, it's not hard for me to tune back into my inner voice and to get silent and still and to really hear. But it was something that I hadn't done for a long while, something that I had pushed away. And once I got in tune with that voice, it told me that I needed to return to the tools of my childhood. You see, I had a rather unconventional childhood, and I was raised on a pretty steady diet of a mixture of law of attraction teachings, visualizations, and holistic medicine. If you know Jethro Kloss and Back to Eden, if you know, you know, you know. Funnily enough though, many of these things which I had believed and absorbed as a child and then drifted away, never fully abandoned, but in many ways drifted away from my adulthood, really spoke to me now. And by returning to them, I was able to start designing the beginnings of what became my 90-day transformation, my return to myself. You see, I was now in my 40s, and I wasn't bouncing back as quickly and as easily as I had in my 30s and my 20s. And at first this alarmed me, but now I see it was actually a really great gift, because I might have just continued along, not knowing, not really thinking, and not really seeing the greater opportunities that lay ahead. As part of this transformation, I began to realize that having boundaries was no longer optional. It was mandatory. And that, once again, instead of saying no to myself, the answer now had to be yes, which meant saying no to others. And as you can imagine, that often ruffles some feathers, but it's something that you will need to do. Then I needed to shift my life and my priorities and my actions to reflect my core values. I mentioned my to-do list earlier, and that was one of the first steps. And another step in that direction was scheduling white space in my calendar. That space is my time. I don't have to account about it to anyone. If I'm not available, I'm not available. I don't need to say why. I don't need to explain myself. But I can use that time to be with others, to be social. But it's all if I choose. And if I want to use that time to focus on work and to do work-related items, I do that as well. You see, it's not about abandoning the work. It's about finding the balance. And the more that the work aligns with your core values as well, the more that balance is maintained. So it's not always that doing more work is going to throw you out of balance. I'm not saying that at all. We're running a business here after all. But that business and the actions of that business, they need to stay aligned to what was originally your core vision and your core values for that business. Very often we find that we go astray following trends, following what's viral, trying to become viral, trying to create content, thinking about algorithms. That has nothing to do with why we started what we've started and who we are. So we need to dial back, we need to return again to who we are. Step 3, embrace imperfection. Whew, saying that still gets my heartbeat up. You see, if you were raised the way that I was raised, perfection was always the goal, and very little else got rewarded or supported. If you ever watched Scandal, yes, I'm a huge Olitz fan. If you remember that classic monologue that Papa Pope delivered to Olivia about having to always be twice as good, that was my life. So I've had that voice inside of my head, I would say forever. And it was very hard for me to let it go. Even when intellectually I knew that it was hollow, emotionally it still rang true. As a result of this need for perfection, this compulsion, I would often find myself tweaking and reworking almost to the point of exhaustion, and many times past the point of exhaustion. Small tasks, small assignments, things that really didn't need the amount of effort that I was putting in. But you see, part of the perfectionism trap is fear. We're afraid. We're very afraid. And that fear keeps you in a bind. It just latches on. And it calls itself perfectionism. It calls itself values. It calls itself keeping a standard. But it's not. It's making us sabotage ourselves. It's making us procrastinate. It's making us not trust ourselves. It's making us not have confidence in ourselves. And that was something I needed to let go of. And I was able to do that through, once again, staying in alignment with my values. Perfectionism was not a core value of mine. Isn't that something? And I doubt it's a core value of yours as well. What I needed to focus on, and what I did focus on, was progress. Making myself 1% better each time. I'm doing it right now with this YouTube channel. This YouTube channel has been a huge, huge eye-opener to the lingering chains of perfectionism that I still had inside of me. These videos aren't perfect. They're not meant to be. But in the beginning, I was trembling with fear each time I had to upload, and I cringed when I watched the replay. I'm getting better at that now, and I know that there's still a lot to improve in terms of lighting and audio and camera quality. But I'm hoping that with that transparency, letting you know that, it will allow you to see that there is beauty in progress, focusing on progress, because I still have a message to share, and I know you have one as well, in whatever area of expertise it is that you're focusing on. So allow yourself to be seen, allow yourself to be heard, and don't let that perfectionism monster keep you back. It's taken me a long time to truly internalize that done is better than perfect. However, letting go of imperfection has allowed me so much more freedom, creatively and otherwise. It's allowed me the freedom to create healthier deadlines for myself, more realistic deadlines. It's allowed me to create restoration time, restorative space in my schedule, in between tasks, especially those that I know tend to overexert my nervous system, my health, that tend to tire me out. And it's also allowed me to become more creative, to have more space mentally, psychically, spiritually, to receive and to be open to those sparks of inspiration that seem to come out of nowhere, but which are still and quiet and so often missed if we're not in the right frame of mind. Throughout this video, I've been teasing the one key that allowed me to free myself from the toxic hustle culture that was slowly but surely suffocating me. I haven't said what it is explicitly yet, but I think it's time that I do. My worth isn't tied to my productivity. I'll say that again. My worth isn't tied to my productivity. You see, once I understood that, everything else just fell away. Overcommitment, a non-issue, because my worth isn't tied to my productivity. Understanding that action is more important than perfection, that every step does count. Of course, because my worth isn't tied to my productivity. And you know what? Neither is yours. I challenge you to start your own 90-day transformation if you're currently feeling stuck in that hustle culture, if you're feeling changes in your body that you don't like and that you're brushing off, and if you're struggling to maintain work-life balance. If you need a little more help and support doing this, I have a video here called Change Your Life in 90 Days, and I'll link it in the description box below. Or if you want more personalized guidance, you can book a one-on-one alignment session with me where I will walk you through this 90-day journey and help you to realize it, to at least set the framework in place for your own unique situation and your own unique life. Together, we'll work to help you release hustle culture, to break through those limiting beliefs and negative self-talk, and find a way to find that success without sacrificing your soul. If this resonates with you, click the link in the description box below. I'd love to hear what you're taking away from this and what changes you're eager to implement. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and feel free to share this video with someone that you think might also need it. I'm all about building a community of empowered, balanced, seeking female entrepreneurs. Now, check out this next video. The YouTube algorithm thinks it's perfect for you. And there's only one way to find out. See you there.